Have you ever found yourself pouring so much into one child that you suddenly realize something feels off with another? Maybe they've gotten quieter, or maybe they've started acting out in ways that catch you off guard. Maybe they're not the one having the big meltdowns, but something still doesn't feel quite right. In today's episode, we're talking about what happens when one child needs more of you and another starts to feel it, and how to stay present and connected with both. Mama, are you tired of meltdowns stealing the peace in your home? Welcome to Parenting Beyond Meltdowns. I'm Amanda, a Christian life coach and a mom of a strong-willed neurospicy teen. If you've tried everything from consequences, parenting books, crying out to the Father, and still feel like you're failing, you're not alone. Inside this podcast, we'll explore how faith, emotional regulation, and connection work together so that you can parent from a place of peace, even in the hardest moments. You don't have to hold it all together here. This is a safe space to lay it all down. Welcome. Before we jump into today's episode, I want to take a moment to speak to the mama who feels stretched in every direction. Maybe one child needs so much of your attention right now, and you're doing everything you can to support them, but at the same time, there's this quiet awareness that something might feel off with another child. Maybe they've gotten quieter, or maybe they've started acting out in ways that you didn't expect. Maybe you find yourself expecting more of them or assuming that they're okay just because they're not the one struggling the loudest. And maybe there's a little bit of guilt in there, but you're not quite sure what to do differently. Mama, if that's you, I want you to know that nothing has gone wrong. You are not failing. You are navigating something that so many mamas experience but don't always talk about. This is exactly the kind of thing that I walk mamas through inside my one-on-one Anchored Mama coaching sessions. This is where we slow it all down, we look at what's really happening in your home, and we gently begin to notice what's going on underneath the surface so that you can respond in a way that feels more steady, connected, and aligned. If you want support like this, you can book a session at amandacalfee.com/session. That's AMANDACALFEE.com/SESSION. I've had moments where I've looked up and realized I've been giving so much of my energy to one child that I haven't fully seen what was happening with another. Not because I didn't care, but because I was in full response mode, handling meltdowns, navigating big emotions, trying to keep things from escalating. And in the middle of all of that, it's easy to start telling yourself things like, they're fine, they know better, they don't need as much of me right now. But then something shifts. Maybe they get quieter. Maybe they start acting out in ways that feel unexpected. Maybe there's just this subtle feeling of distance. And that's the moment I've had to slow down and realize just because a child isn't the loudest doesn't mean they don't have needs. And just because their needs look different doesn't mean that they're not there. Sometimes they're just harder to see. And if we're not aware, we can miss it. In our teaching today, point number 1 is your nervous system is prioritizing intensity. Your brain is wired to respond to what feels the most urgent. So when one child is dysregulated, melting down, or needing constant support, your attention naturally goes there. Not because you love one child more than the other, but because your nervous system is trying to stabilize the moment. It's almost like your brain is scanning the room and asking, where is the fire? And of course, you go to the fire. But what can happen is this. While you're focusing on putting out the big, visible flames, you might not notice what's happening in the quiet corners. And that's where awareness comes in. Not to pull you away from the child who needs you, but to gently widen your awareness so that you can see the whole picture. And as mamas, we know that even when we're not in the moments of the meltdowns, we're already thinking about the next time. We carry so many worries and concerns for our kiddos that are strong-willed and neurodivergent, whether it comes to if they're in school or you're homeschooling, all the areas that we are trying to be everything that they need and get the support that they need, we a lot of times don't know how to turn that off. The rest of the world doesn't see that always. Maybe our spouses do if we're talking about it, but our other children, they don't necessarily see that internal turmoil that's still happening where we're trying to figure out what we could do better, different. And this is not for them to see, But we just have to be aware of while all of our children need us, we also need to remember that we need ourselves and our spouse needs us. That can feel like a big pull in a lot of different directions when we're trying to be everything to everyone. And so I really want this episode to just be about awareness in case this isn't something you've thought about before because you've just been so in the thick of it, or if it is something you've thought about, but to feel seen and heard in this moment. Our second teaching point, your easy child often carries more than you see. When one child isn't acting out, we can start to expect more out of them without even realizing it. I definitely know with my daughter that I have put her in this position of, in my mind, you're the good kid, which sounds so terrible to say out loud, but I think we've all said it or thought it, is that you should know better or think they can handle this on their own or that they don't need as much of me right now. But mama, what I want you to know is that sometimes what's happening underneath is so much deeper than we realize. And sometimes that child begins to feel like that they need to take up less space. They need to make things easier. They need to just handle it on their own. Not because they don't have needs, but because they've learned to quiet those needs. And that doesn't mean that something's gone wrong. It just means that there's something that we might not be seeing yet. Point number 3 is disconnection doesn't always look loud. Not every child expresses struggle through behavior. Sometimes it looks like withdrawal, quietness, going to their room more, trying to stay out of the way, or even becoming more helpful, more responsible, more mature than expected. And while that can look like everything is okay, sometimes underneath, that's a mix of emotions that they don't know how to express. They may be feeling left out, confused, frustrated, or even guilty for feeling that way. And mama, those feelings don't make them wrong. It just makes them human, just like us. This is why we don't want to just look for behavior. We want to stay curious about what might be happening underneath it. And I will say that I was guilty and have been guilty of my child looking like she just had it all together and that she wasn't struggling. And come to find out later on, while she's making it look like everything's so easy, which, have we done that? Are we guilty of that too, where we make it look like to the world that we're okay and we've got it all together and we're so strong? But underneath it all, it literally feels like we're failing at everything and we don't like we don't know what we're doing and we're completely dysregulated. Our other kids can feel that way too. Because believe it or not, they take on some of this burden too, just being part of the family. And it's not that we want that or that we want to put that on them and or that we even do. Sometimes it's just noticing that they are taking that on and letting them know that it's not their job to take it on. Point number 4, emotional regulation creates space for both. This is where your regulation matters again. Not in a pressure-filled way, not in a way that you need to be calm all the time, but in awareness-based way. Because when you are constantly in reaction mode, your focus narrows. You're just trying to get through the moment, handle the meltdown, keep things from escalating, hold it all together. And when you're in that space, it's hard to see anything outside of what feels urgent. But your capacity begins to grow. You start to have just a little more space inside of yourself, and that space changes. You begin to notice what you didn't see before. You might catch yourself thinking, I've been focused over here for a while. I should probably check on child A. I haven't really checked in with them today. I think they might need me right now. And instead of turning that into guilt, you can respond with intention, not perfectly, not all at once, but in small, meaningful ways that might look like a hand on the shoulder as you walk by, pausing to really make eye contact when you're talking, sitting with them for a few minutes without distraction, asking, how are you doing today? And sometimes it also looks like giving them permission to just be a kid again, not a helper, not the one who has it all together, not the one who always knows what to do, just your child. Because mama, when one child needs more, it's easy for another child to quietly take up less space. And your awareness is what gently brings them back into connection. This isn't about dividing yourself perfectly between your children. It's about staying present enough to keep the door open for both. And those small moments of connection, they matter more than you think. Our faith anchor today is Psalms 127:3. It says, "Children are a heritage from the Lord, offspring a reward from Him." Mama, each child entrusted to you matters deeply to the Father, not just the one who needs the attention the most in the moment, but each one fully seen and fully known. This week, I want to invite you to gently notice the quieter child in your home, not with pressure, not with guilt, just awareness. To take one small moment to intentionally connect, whether it's a hug, a question, or a few undistracted minutes. Mama, connection doesn't have to be big to be meaningful. I also want to let you know that sometimes when we reach out to do these things, we expect some sort of response. And I need you to give yourself permission and them to react however they want to this. You may ask them a question and they may not answer, or they might be snarky. What I want you to notice here is that just like with our other kiddos, we might have to build back some emotional trust here. That if they've grown accustomed to having to be all these things in their mind, and again, maybe we didn't put that on them, but they put it on themselves because they didn't know any better. But to build some emotional trust of that mom is paying attention to me, mom does see me, mom does care about what I'm saying. And for us to be able to have compassion for if they don't respond the way that we think they should or we want them to in that moment, because like, hey, I'm trying to show you I love you, but then you're being snarky or whatever with me. And this may not be what happens with you, because some of them, like my daughter, she just like wants the hug. She wants to be acknowledged and she wants the hug. I just want you to be prepared that not every kid is going to react the same way, and that we just might have to build some emotional trust back with them of that this is something they consistently see us showing up for them also, just like we do for their brothers or sister. And remember, the connection doesn't have to be big. It just needs to be meaningful. If you feel like the Father's nudging you towards support in this area, you can book a one-on-one Anchored Mama session at amandacalfee.com/session. The link is in the show notes, and if you're not ready yet, you'll find other ways to connect with me there too. Hey, sweet mama, I hope you loved today's episode. Can you do me a favor? If this episode spoke to your heart, would you take 30 seconds and share it with a mama in your life who needs to know they are not alone? Also, would you leave a quick review on Apple Podcasts for me? It blesses my heart to know that this show is giving you hope in hard moments. All right, I'm off to grab some protein because love and grace flows easier when you're not just running on fumes and coffee. I'll meet you back here next week for another honest and hope-filled conversation. In the meantime, mama, stay rooted in faith and anchored in love.